Yeah.
Welcome back to the Ether Revolution.
What's up,
We
guys?
have an exciting guest here today. Probably diving into a different topic than we've ever done, apart from our own personal food journey that we shared with you guys. But we have, do you like to be called doctor?
Not really. I mean, for an introduction, it's fine.
I did
but
notice from your other stuff that no one really says
no,
like
I'm
Dr.
not a doctor. I
Caryn
don't
Zinn.
want to fix anything.
Yeah.
No, just Caryn.
Okay,
It's
cool.
fine,
We
yeah.
have Caryn Zinn here. Do you want to let us know what you do currently and a little bit of your background? I know that you didn't come from any health issues yourself. It's just something you've naturally gone towards. So, yeah, can we hear a bit about what you're currently doing?
In terms of
like roles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a professor of nutrition at AUT. And the co-director of our research institute, which is called SPRINS, the Sports Performance Research Institute New Zealand. It's a bit of a mouthful. In other words, I'm an academic. But I'm also a registered dietitian, and I have been, since the beginning of my career many years ago, and I'm still involved with clinical practice. So at AUT, my role is full-time, got a hand in clinical practice. You were talking about we all work after hours.
Yeah.
That's the classic situation. People go, "Are you full time?" But you are consulting as well. It's like, this makes for a busy world.
Yes.
But I don't have kids, so that spares up a lot of time. So my interest is obviously nutrition, but it's really only been the last probably 11, coming on 12 years that I focused on a more contemporary area of nutrition, which is, I guess, the whole food carbohydrate reduction space and how it impacts metabolic health and sports performance. So that's it in a nutshell.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can we get, for our viewers, just a really brief rundown about what the metabolic health is and why it's important?
So I guess if you want to put it really simply, you can say that every single cell in your body depends on what you put in your mouth and how you treat your body. So while diet is really important, it's diet and lifestyle. So metabolic health is how well equipped your body is based on how well you treat it with these lifestyle behaviors. So there are certain things, and certainly in the nutrition space, that we think are true. There's certain lines of thinking that we believe to be true, many of us, and I did up until 11, 12 years ago, which is we need to eat a diet that is based on predominantly carbohydrate. And you would have heard the term healthy whole grains, lots of fruit and vegetables, keep fat intake low, particularly saturated fat intake. And I guess my work over the last 11, 12 years has gone against that. It's almost flipped the food pyramid around in that, not for everyone, but I think for a lot of people, carbohydrate is not a facilitator to good health. I think it can be detrimental for some people, particularly those people who have insulin resistance.
Yes.
So insulin resistance, I'm not sure
Yeah, maybe we could actually explain that in a simple way as well.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Not calling you guys simple.
I'm
Just
simple.
trying to-
I need to know. I'm learning here. So.
So insulin resistance is really a state or even a condition where your body becomes intolerant to I guess, it becomes resistant to the action of insulin. So insulin resistant becomes resistant to the action of insulin. So what is the action of insulin? Insulin's got a wide range of roles in the body, but its key role as a hormone is to clear glucose from the blood and basically send it to its storage sites, which are the liver and the muscles. So when you eat carbohydrate foods, so bread, cereals, pasta, rice, fruit, some vegetables like starchy vegetables, and obviously fizzy drinks, lollies, all that kind of stuff, your blood sugar shoots up, right? Insulin is then released from the pancreas, and then blood sugar comes down because the sugar in the blood is directed to the liver and directed to the muscles. With insulin resistance, what happens is the cells go, well, I don't kind of recognize this, so you need more insulin to do the same job. So insulin gets released from the pancreas in really large amounts, and then eventually the blood sugar goes into the cells, but at the expense of very high levels of circulating insulin in the blood, and that's called hyperinsulinemia, which is a great hangman word if you ever play hangman. So hyper, which means high, insulin, which is the hormone insulin, anemia, which is in your blood, high blood levels of insulin is very, very damaging to pretty much every tissue in the body.
Right.
So poor metabolic health is characterized by insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia. And I think something you'll find really interesting is a PhD student of ours several years ago got this massive database from this pathologist in the US who's since passed away when he got to 96 or something.
Wow.
And he did, you would know about glucose tolerance tests, right?
Yes,
So you drink, 75
sugary.
grams of sugary stuff,
Yeah.
and you measure your blood sugar for a couple of hours. Well, this pathologist did glucose tolerance test, but he did insulin assays.
Oh, wow.
So he measured glucose and insulin over 5 hours after drinking this sweet stuff, right? And what he found that 2/3 of the population of 14,000 individuals had normal glucose tolerance. So you get the rise in glucose and a normal return to baseline at the expense of high levels of insulin. So those people that the doctor would go, oh, your glucose is fine, you're in great health, would have no idea what insulin's doing because we don't measure it in that way. So there's a whole bunch of people in our population, in our community, that would have no idea they are insulin resistant. So, it's much bigger than we know.
Yeah.
It feels crazy to just be on the cusp of all of this, that it is getting looked at like a fad diet kind of thing, but really actually this research needs to be tapped into, and we need to be told, our doctors need to be told different things, and our hospitals and food providers need to be told different things.
They do. And I tell you something, it's a hard game. It's a hard game because we're up against big food and big pharma.
Yes.
Everywhere you look, the fat cats who own Eli Lilly and the drug companies that supply diabetes drugs aren't going, oh, tell me how we can actually sell less drugs.
Yeah.
And everything's sponsored by Coca-Cola or
absolutely. So the fat cats and the giants that own McDonald's, KFC, all that kind of stuff, fast food industry are not going to say we absolutely want our customers to be eating less.
Yes.
Yeah.
Up against that is just it's hard yakka.
It really is. That's what first got me into like a bit of the conspiracy type stuff, was the food and Monsanto and Robert Shapiro, who had Monsanto plus part of the FDA and a big pharmaceutical company. So it was like this making us sick, legalize making us sick, and then going for him for the cure as well. That was it for me, and that got me into food, a lot of it.
Yeah, and it is interesting just to follow on from that. A lot of the studies that have been done on cholesterol and, the necessity to have statins if your LDL cholesterol goes over a certain level, a lot of these historically have been funded by the drug companies. So there's a massive conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And the last kind of 6 or 7 or 8 years, the big movers and shakers in this field have been calling out those groups and those people that are highly conflicted. So now, when you present at a conference when you do any kind of formal address, you have to declare your conflicts of interest. And there are investigators looking up your history, and they'll call you out. So
really?
That's so good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that good
So
stuff.
it's getting better,
That's
eh?
amazing.
It is getting better, absolutely.
But it's only the start, eh? So what do you reckon? Do you know when you study at like university for this sort of things, are they talking about how carbs are good for you or bad for you?
That's a brilliant question, actually. So when I studied, which was a long time ago, I won't tell you how long, but we, of course, learned about the standard, 45 to 60% of your diet needs to be carbs, blah, blah, blah. Never heard of the term insulin resistance, hyperinsulinemia, never heard of the term metabolic health. And for us, it was to manage diabetes, you need to eat just like the average person eats, which is the majority of carbohydrate, which is ludicrous. Unfortunately, that is still being taught in a lot of universities and in schools, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to influence that. I've been trying for 12 years, and as a dietitian, as a registered dietitian, I've had about 7 formal complaints against me from my colleague dietitians.
Oh my goodness.
And one went to a professional conducts committee where I had to justify everything that I was doing.
Whoa.
Wow.
And so that was several years ago, and then I was complaint free for about 6 years. And then last year, it was bizarre. This complaint went into the dietitians board from a dietitian who was also a starting PhD student at a university, which I won't mention. And they complained about a video that was shown to the medical students, which I was in, helping Pacific Island families reduce their carb intake, ones who had type 2 diabetes. So I was in their home and I was making a burger without a bun and more vegetables, and they were complaining about me and saying that the letter was interesting. It was like, because of course we know that there's no evidence to show that low carbohydrate diet has any impact on reducing diabetes. So of course that was the easiest rebuttal. I just fired off a response and listed the 150 studies there were and said, well, actually we're being sponsored by the government for 3 years to actually look into this. So we've got endorsements. So actually, as a PhD student, this is a great lesson. You need to do your homework.
Yeah, totally.
But your blinkers on philosophy is still there. And I tell you something, it is powerful, because when I first cottoned onto this, I was like, no way. Like, I'm loyal to the cause, and this absolutely can't be. And then when you get directed to some information and your eyes are opened and you really look at the fundamental physiology, that whole cliche of once you see something, you can't unsee it. And it's the truth, because you go, well, I was asked some simple questions about insulin resistance. And so, Caryn, do you think someone with type 2 diabetes has insulin resistance? Yeah, of course. So do you think that if you've got insulin resistance, you should avoid the nutrient that raises insulin? Yeah, of course. Well, then why do dietitians and why is the management around type 2 diabetes based on moderate to high levels of carbohydrate?
It just seems very common sense.
It is common sense. It's common sense once you know more. But when you look at the other side of it, if I was on the other side of answering my question, I would go, well, you need the full food groups because you need to get all the nutrients from all the foods, all the micronutrients and the fiber, and you get that from healthy whole grains and all that. And then I'll go back to the other side and go, well, actually, you can get nutrients from plenty foods that are not heavy in carbohydrate.
Yeah.
And I think what is really interesting is we've got a UK collaborator. He's a GP in the UK called Dr. David Unwin, and he's reversing type 2 diabetes in his clinic.
Well.
And he puts it so beautifully. He says to his patients, just eat foods that don't put your blood sugar up. You put on a CGM, you put it on your arm, it shows you continuously what foods put your blood sugar up.
Yeah.
And when you take it down to that simplest level, you go, well, who can provide an alternative?
Yeah,
it is.
totally.
Yeah, it's good. He's probably just like simplified it so much that there's no like scary words in there that will scare someone and be like, oh, like now I can't eat these things here because of this word, you know. But when he simplified it like that,
You're right.
a lot of people
and
can relate.
he's a very gentle personality. He wears a bow tie, and him and his wife, they are such lovely people. She's a clinical psychologist, and she specialises in food addiction. Jennifer Unwin.
Wow,
She's written
amazing.
a really good book called Fork in the Road. And together they are revolutionising this area of reversing type 2 diabetes and using whole food, low carb, but also putting food addiction, sugar addiction on the agenda.
I actually studied as a health coach with IIN, and I was always interested in this study that they did about they gave, I think, heroin, cocaine, and sugar to rats. And they always went back to the sugar. So it's such a hard addiction to get through, isn't it? Because it is in everything. And even when I think the most ordinary person might think that they're eating a potato or pasta and think it's not sweet because it doesn't have sugar because it's not sweet. You know, whereas there's so much hidden in there, and a lot of people don't even understand the fact that carbohydrates is sugar.
That is one of the biggest problems, because no one would dispute sugar and removing refined sugar. But the minute you talk about removing things like breads and pasta, that's where it comes unstuck, because there's a lack of understanding. But there's also a fundamental difference between how people view things like heroin. Like, no one has ever said heroin's good for you.
Yeah.
But the world has said sugar is good for you.
Yeah.
Now, we've had decades of our societies going, as long as you exercise, you're better off.
Well, it's the same as cigarettes back in the day.
Yeah, well, that's right.
It was good for you. You should be smoking and stuff, you know? And then all of a sudden, the studies came out.
That's exactly right.
What do you think is the difference between your mindset and other dietitians or people in the nutrition health space? Why are you more open-minded to maybe unlearning some of the original things that you learned, and why are some people so close-minded? I find online people really, like, a lot of dietitians go after the low-carb space.
That's an interesting question. But there are a lot of dietitians that have changed their views, which is great. I once did a presentation at the symposium, and I talked about dietitians, because I am a dietitian, right? So, and I'm proud to be a dietitian, but dietitians get such a bad rap, and they typically consider, or we have considered ourselves, the food police, right? And also, we are the people who should be talking about food, and the only people, because we are the ones that have got the qualifications. So you shouldn't be talking about food. A personal trainer shouldn't be talking about food. It's only us. And when I look back, and I even thought like that, and when I look back, I'm thinking, gosh, that was so, the naivety there is ridiculous. We should all be talking about food as much as we can.
Yeah.
Dietitians are very conservative, and as a group, the personality characteristics are that we're very risk averse. It's bizarre. There's actually paper published on this. And I recall I've got a really close colleague friend who's a nutritionist, so she's not a registered dietitian, and she's always been a bit more loose with her application of supplements. And in the old days, I used to always go, well, there's no evidence for that, and you shouldn't be doing that. And I think I've just loosened up, because I realised firstly that practice comes before research a lot of the time.
Right.
And also, I think being an academic, it allows you to really understand the flaws of research. And once you understand that what you read in the headlines and even what you read in the actual papers some of them are substantially flawed, then you start questioning everything. Yeah. Which is kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
But as long as you're comfortable with where you land, and you are you have integrity, and you make sure that there's evidence to back up the alternative. And I think that's the beauty about this area. 12 years ago, there was growing evidence, and now there is a ton of evidence to show that carbohydrate reduction is actually a thing. It's not a fad. It's a thing.
Yeah, just going back like a topic before. So like now that I'm back in the tradie world, there's a lot of people, and I didn't notice it before, but they're like, we'll go to the bakery before work, get pies, fizzy drinks, work, and then go to Smoko, which is at 10. Same thing, they'll get like chicken and chips, and then break again at 1, and then they eat the same thing, and then go home, and they're just stuck in the cycle. So I've like been trying to talk to some of the boys on site, and just trying to show them the healthier foods, which was easy when I had my own company, but now I'm with these other boys, they're real stuck in this loop, and they can't even see the other side. What's some tips and tricks to help tradies get out of that pattern?
You know, it's really interesting because the places that you pull into on the way to work are not really conducive to having to buying healthy food. You know? So to say to tradies, you need to prepare your own salad, and you can put some chicken in it or leftovers. It's like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you've almost got to just look at what you've got and make the best choices. So definitely the fizzy drink or the V drink, substitute for something like water or fizzy water or unflavoured. Now that's not a great sell because you're going from something which is incredibly tasty. If you think like a V drink is tasty, I don't. I think it's horrendous, but some people do. With caffeine in it, to water. Well, I don't want to buy water. So from a fluid perspective, there's not a lot of amazingly better choices, but there are some. And the drinks now, you've got those carbonated drinks that are sugar-free but are still tasty. So you have got some alternatives there, and the sugar-free options are really good. So there's an easy change you can make there. I used to, in the old days, think that pies were really terrible. And actually, confession, I don't think that they're as terrible now as I did before, particularly the homemade ones.
Yeah.
Because actually, yes, you've got some pastry on the outside, which is not ideal, but you've got good quality meat or chicken or fish or something in the middle, and there's your protein. So what you want is protein. So if they can load up on protein, because of course, the more protein you have and the less carbohydrate you have, the more stable your blood sugar. As a tradie, if your blood sugar goes up and down and up and down and up and down over the day, your energy levels, your concentration, your mood is going to be shot, right? So if you just pick up the protein and the fat, even if you just put some protein powder in some water and have a smoothie and get like a homemade pie in a smoothie, and some nuts or something, even some salami and some cheese. Grab and take.
That's my go-to.
What about like? Most of them love their chicken and chips. There's a chicken and chips place like just up the road.
Deep fried stuff.
Yeah, and it's deep fried. Like they're eating that every day.
Yeah, so it's not ideal. I mean, the chicken's great, but the deep frying is not great. Firstly, because it's not so much the quantity of fat that I'm concerned about. It's the quality of fat and the deep frying process, and that makes the fat quite unstable in your body and quite destructive. And the fats, the oils that they'll be cooking with are probably the seed oils, the ones that again are quite susceptible to damage in the body.
Totally.
Like your canolas, your sunflowers, your soybean oils, those kind of cheap, highly manufactured oils that have got high functionality that you can deep fry, and it's just not ideal. So, I mean, what would be a good alternative to that? If you're only going to go to a chicken and chips place, well, you've got to change the route. You've got to go somewhere else.
We are lacking
Healthy
options.
Yeah.
Healthy options we are, but also that can compete from a price perspective.
Yes,
That's what we're missing.
Totally.
So if you can, I know I'm all about carbohydrate reduction, but if you're really, really slim and you are healthy and you don't have insulin resistance and you look after yourself in multiple ways, then having some carbohydrate is fine. So if you went and you got a wrap with some protein in, yes, there's carbohydrate there, but if you've got good quality protein and some vegetables in there, that would be perfect. But it would be interesting to compare the price of a wrap, a purchased wrap, versus chicken and chips.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be equivalent, but I certainly know if you go past a poke bowl place, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, and tank and stuff like that, eh?
Yeah, tank is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy how our world is backwards like that, eh? And it goes back to the big companies, how they make...
It's just the mass production, though, is what makes it cheap, isn't it?
Mass production, absolutely. And like the seed oils will be a classic example because they're a lot cheaper to get to the end product of a seed oil in a bottle compared to olive oil.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes the whole product or end product or item of food that you're making a lot more expensive.
Totally.
We should talk a little bit about oil as well.
The way they make it as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a whole nother topic.
Nah, just
in itself.
a couple oils that you think people should use, because a lot of people don't know, like aren't educated, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people still.
We use that Australian one, that Red Island.
Oh yeah. I used to use that one as well.
It's
Actually,
our
just because it was a
favourite.
nice size.
Yeah.
I'm not that loyal to one brand. I like to kind of mix it up and to try different ones. But I definitely think getting an extra virgin cold pressed olive oil is where it's at. And sometimes I go to the Australian ones. Sometimes I like to. Well, actually, most of the time I like to support the local New Zealand brands, which is I can't think what, I've just lost the name of it. There are a few of them, and there's like a purple label and a green label.
Yes,
yeah.
I've seen those.
Yeah, I've got and actually the reason why I buy those is because of the poorer, well, because it's extra virgin olive oil, but because it's the poorer, you take the cap off and you can pour it like that, whereas some of the other olive oils, you've got to put your finger over and you
my
lose
dad
half of
actually
it.
put a cap on ours that has the pourer.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So he's a fan of that oil as well. It's just because it's like 100% olive oil and there's no other bad ingredients. I don't know. If my dad says it's good because he just researches the shit out of every...
Yeah, sounds like he absolutely knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he does.
And olive oil, the thing about olive oil is it is a lot more expensive compared to the other oils. But it's got a lot more benefit. It's got the polyphenols in it, which, can protect against oxidative damage and things. So it's like you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
So I'm a massive fan of olive oil, and I'm also a big fan of butter.
Yeah.
Big
We
fan
use
of butter.
ghee a lot.
And ghee, and natural fats from food.
Yeah,
So
totally.
If you get not that I'm a fan of having processed meat all the time, but if you are cooking bacon or you are cooking some processed meat, or are cooking sausages, the amount of fat that comes off is quite a lot, and you can actually keep that and reuse that.
Or
to
even
cook
just
other things.
leave it in the cast iron pot. Yeah.
True.
It's so
It's
cool.
a great money saver.
It is. Yeah, so do you think that space is totally different from the health space? Like for me, I eat to be healthy. I don't eat to look a certain way. Whereas I feel like some of the stuff that they're promoting online, saying that the English muffins with this super processed meat inside and sauce is healthy for you because it's within your calorie range. But I just don't, they just seem to come after the low carb space and say carbs are fine and things like that and call their food healthy, but when it's really just a calorie thing. Do you think the calorie thing and the health thing are two different spaces?
I think there are two different spaces, and they also align.
Yeah.
They collide. And I think the danger with just calories is you're absolutely right. If you look at purely weight loss, and that's why you can't take anything in isolation really. But let's say you just after decreasing body fat, you can, if you eat 2,000 calories a day and you're not getting anywhere, you can you can then drop that to 1,200 calories a day and eat absolute crap, excuse my language.
Yeah.
You can lose weight,
Yeah.
right? You can eat English muffins with processed foods in them. You can eat 5 chocolates a day and lose weight because of that calorie deficit.
Yeah.
Are you going to be healthy? No, absolutely not. Could you still have insulin resistance? Potentially. So I think that is the fact that you do get a reasonably good outcome from weight loss is a real danger, because then that blinds people to really what it's all about. And I think when it comes to carbs, whether you are going moderate carbs, high carb or low carb, it's about the quality of the food. And I think ultra-processed foods are now being uncovered in good quality research as being incredibly detrimental to your health. And I think a lot of the mechanisms there are centered around messing up the microbiome. And once the microbiome is messy, that just wreaks havoc with all the systems in the body.
Yeah.
With neurotransmitters and with appetite regulation. And of course the gut and the brain are intricately linked. It's like, extension of one organ. And the mental health crisis that we see, I 100% believe is not caused by, but one of the key contributing factors, alongside a bunch of other things, is poor diet, and a diet that's very high in ultra-processed foods, because the micronutrients are not there. The microbiome is being messed up, and the hormonal and neurotransmitter environment in the body is just out of kilter.
Yeah. And that's mental health, including things like schizophrenia, dementia, bipolar, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, those things are increasing. Where those conditions are coming from, not entirely sure, but I certainly think the modern environment and what it brings, so like the poor food supply, the fact that we're not quite as active as we used to be. But I think one of the biggest contributing factors is how we live in terms of our busyness and our stressful lives. We're rushing from place to place, and it sort of perpetuates the bad behaviors. When you're rushing from place to place, you call in here, you grab poor quality food, you eat it on the run. You compromise your relationships because you're busy. And I think all of these things just alter cell structure and cause problems.
Yeah.
It's all about balance, eh?
It is about balance, and I think it's I don't think anyone's got it perfectly. I think, getting back to basics and consolidating habits is a lifelong thing. So food, exercise, sleep, stress, community, relationships, getting outside in the sun, those are the kind of fundamentals, and we don't always get all of them right all the time. So it's a constant, I'm constantly trying to get more sleep and put these goals in place, and then you get sleep compromised because it's out of your control, and then you get stressed about it, and you eat poor quality food. So you constantly have to revisit, and without being hard on yourself, though. It's like, okay, I'm just going to work on a couple of basic things and consolidate. And I think young people might not, they probably don't do that, because honestly, when I was young, I just ate what my parents put in front of me. I didn't have money. We never ate out or got fast food or anything like that. It was quite a different environment. But I didn't think about, I was always active, but I was active because I enjoyed being active. I didn't think about long-term health. Like when you're in your late teens, early 20s, you're not thinking about long-term health. So
I think that's
tricky.
where a lot of it comes from, though, is overthinking. Overthinking how we should be eating, overthinking that we should be working out at such intense levels, and people going into these 8-week challenges and then wondering why they just have the results for 1 week afterwards. It's because they're, all in that challenge, and then they go back to normal and suddenly they don't have those results anymore. I think that changing the way we eat, like including our kids, has helped us to just become in part of a lifestyle rather than a fad thing, jumping on and off challenges and things like that. And sorry, my mum brain is mum braining right now. It's going somewhere with that. Oh yeah, so we got over the break we kind of ate whatever we wanted, and it was hard because I feel like I actually got addicted to feeling well, you know. And before I got used to just feeling bloated and sore tummy and cramping and you know, TMI, but like, you know, different type of, you know, when you go to the toilet, you get used to the way things are.
Yeah.
And now being healthy, I'm like, I look at things, I'm like, it's not even worth the feeling that's going to come with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My body reacts real bad to sugar now.
Yeah.
Like I used to be way bigger than, I was like 100 kgs. But then now that I've tried all these diets, my body's used to it, like she was saying. And then, we had like a few weeks of eating whatever, and it was horrible. The food was nice at the time, but it's horrible in the toilet.
The feeling.
It's horrible to go to sleep. I was getting runny noses.
Yeah, he actually gets like the flu when he eats sugar.
Every time I eat sugar,
it's
like
so
I'll
weird.
just start getting the flu.
I think he's allergic, and that's part of his skin.
I don't know how I was allergic though, because I
But
love
he
sugar.
Well, it's an immune thing, and obviously something that's going through your gut lining is causing some kind of immune response. Your body doesn't like some stuff that you're eating. But you know, the most interesting thing about this whole conversation is that there are people that live like this, but don't even realize they feel bad. And it's only when they clean up their diet they go, oh my God, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
But people just live in this space of just feeling horrific and just think, well, this is how it is.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing.
Yeah.
You just get used to that. It's like your back pain you get used to, and you get your back fixed and you're like, oh my God, didn't realize I was in all that pain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah, it happens all the time. So like in the space of boxing, because when I used to do my weight cuts, so I'd weight cut, drain myself, and then I'd carb load after, like carb load hard out, and then fight. What's your take on like carb loading? Because 99% of the boxing community probably here do the carb loading thing. Is there
just the athletic community.
Yeah, the athletic. I don't know much about all the other sports. That's why I'm just saying boxing. But yeah, all the other athletes that would do it. Is there a better way to do that than carb loading?
Yeah, so I do want to make a point that I guess this kind of fits into high performance sport, and I don't necessarily mean the elite athletes or the professional athletes. High performance for, you know, can be for me if I wanted to compete or whatever.
Yeah.
So high performance sport is quite different in that some of the things that you do for sport are just not healthy. Like a classic example is if you do the Ironman and you have, 2 gels on the hour every hour for 10 hours. I mean, gosh, that is so unhealthy for your body, for your teeth.
What is in the gels?
Sugar.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
That's it. One ingredient, like maltodextrins. That's it, sugar. And there are, even though, and even under a low carb kind of approach, in a racing situation, some people might still need to have higher levels of sugar consistently over that time. There is some really interesting research that broke this week that shows that actually you might only need 10 grams of carbohydrate per hour, which is way less than the guideline of about 60 grams per hour. But that's in the context of low carb, and we won't go there. But I just want to come back to your question about high performance sport and boxing, and another classic example there is bodybuilding. So the things that you have to do, and weightlifting, the things that you have to do with weight cutting, you can do weight cutting absolutely sensibly if you do it over 4 months, and you calorie control, you decrease 500 calories, and you drop a half a K of body fat a week, and you've planned your whole season. But you and I know that doesn't happen. It's like you've got a week or so, and it's like, right, sauna, not eating this, and you do things that are detrimental. It's the nature of the beast. And carb loading, for a lot of people I know in the bodybuilding community, is all about a look. It's all about aesthetics. It's about filling those muscles with fluid, because when you have carbohydrate, with every 1 gram of carbohydrate you have, you also store 3 to 5 grams of water. So you're getting that bulky look, which is what they want. I suspect for boxing, the carb loading will come from post weigh-in, low energy. Let me try and get as much energy as I possibly can, and then you lift those carbohydrates. So there are different ways that you can do it. So I worked with a boxer, like a really high performance boxer. I don't know if she was professional, but and she was really, really good, and she went into nutritional ketosis, and she said it was really suitable for her body because her body felt kind of inflamed the whole time. So she went on the ketogenic diet, which is really just the more extreme end of low carb, but whole food, like loads of vegetables. Just she ate absolutely beautifully, lost a good amount of body fat, but over a good period of time. And then, before a weigh-in, you would just do those last things that you do on the sort of 2 days before, which are not ideal but are not detrimental. And then the replacement is not carbo loading; it's just eating a normal meal and drinking more. So it can be done. You've just got to kind of know how and be committed to the sort of cause. Yeah,
it'll be hard.
It's hard. I mean, look, what's easy and what's hard is so different amongst different people. But I would say, on a crude level, it's easy to eat poorly. It's easy to not exercise. When you eat well, you've got to do a bit of planning. It might be that you spend a little bit more money. And exercising, you've got to actually move your body, which is hard. I mean, it's amazing and super rewarding, but to try and get people who aren't in the space to get there is pretty tough.
Yeah, definitely that'll be hard as. And also, what is your take on because right now I'm doing the carnivore diet. So what is your take on like all these new diets that are coming out? What do you reckon the best one is for long term to maintain? Because I have a feeling that carnivore, I can't really maintain it forever.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the carnivore diet is that it kind of eventuated with the idea that it was the ultimate elimination diet that needed to be applied for a fixed period of time to heal the gut, essentially. And then once the gut is healed, then you can start introducing plant-based stuff. Probably not going back to what you were having before, but integrating a little bit of vegetable here and there. So the carnivore diet is the big thing at the moment, and I think there is a very, very, I was saying to you earlier, a very, very small percentage of the population that probably need to be on the carnivore diet and thrive on it, and those individuals tend to have very, very hardcore gut issues that do not get resolved with lots of trying of different diets and all sorts of things. Plus, some autoimmune conditions can be alleviated with a carnivore diet. And the idea is you apply it for between a month and 3 months, and sometimes up to 6 months, depending on the severity of the condition and how long you've had it for. And typically the gut over time heals, and then you can start introducing. The problem with the carnivore diet is that, it takes away every little gram of carb. Well, there are a few grams of carbs left in the carnivore diet, but really it's like, 3 or 4? But it's basically carb-free.
Yeah.
And even if you get carb-free vegetables like broccoli and asparagus and all that kind of stuff will still bloat you to some extent because of the fiber. That's the natural kind of function, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you take away all that plant matter, you'll get no bloat, you'll have no carbohydrate, and you'll lean up really, really quickly. And some people, particularly in the fitness industry, go, oh my God, I feel amazing. And of course, your ketone levels will rise. And having high levels of circulating ketones are just the breakdown of fat, of fat in the body. And what ketones do is they can be very anti-inflammatory, and they've got signaling effects, like really powerful signaling effects. for appetite regulation. They can be immune boosting. They can be without, brain boosting or cognitively boosting. They boost a chemical called BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and people find that they feel cognitively amazing. And that mental clarity. So there are lots of benefits, but you just need to be careful what you wish for, because if you do it and you get amazing results, are you going to do it forever? And if you do it forever, what are the consequences? And we just don't quite know that at the moment. And I don't want to go back into my conservative dietitian space, but you are eliminating a lot of micronutrients, and from a social perspective that can be tricky. And I think if it cures your chronic condition, if it's gut related or immune related, that's a different space to be, whether you're going to carry on doing that for the rest of the life, because the benefits might outweigh the inconvenience of saying, oh, sorry, I'm not going to have any salad tonight. But I think it is becoming fad-like in that people are going, oh, this is amazing.
Because that's how I feel. It's the best I've ever felt when I've been strict on it for long enough. It's the best I've felt, and it's hard for me to think of anything else. But I do miss having a little bit of carbs and stuff here and there.
Yeah, I think whatever you're doing, even if it's considered radical, and I would say the carnivore diet is considered radical, do your homework and make sure that any kind of micronutrients that might be considered deficient, maybe you just supplement with a pill or powder. We've just actually published a paper which came out on New Year's Day on the nutrient intake of a carnivore diet, and 4 of us dietitians wrote the article, analysed 4 versions of the carnivore diet, so one with dairy, one without dairy, one with a lot of liver and offal, one without, and
that would be interesting.
It's an interesting read, because it's very the reviewers came back and they said that it was a very unbiased article. We weren't saying whether it was good or bad, we were just saying this is it, and if you're eating this, these are the things to watch out for. So I think people just need to be mindful that they need to do their homework. It's the same as becoming a vegan. If you're going to be a vegan, you need to do your homework and make sure your B12 and your iron and all that stuff is actually, and your choline, which is a nutrient for brain health, which is unheard of, really. That's really my thoughts about the carnivore diet, and I think it's not too dissimilar. Well, it's a little bit dissimilar, but in the area of rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune condition, a diet that has been around for a while, anecdotally, but also we've got a PhD student who's studying it, called the AIP, the autoimmune protocol, and that is really short of carnivore. It's probably one of the more stringent elimination diets. So you remove grains, dairy, eggs, nuts and seeds, seed oils, artificial sweeteners, alcohol, legumes. So it's what do you eat? Meat and veg. Meat and veg and fruit, and there's rice actually in there. So, and a lot of people with RA are actually finding that they have symptom relief. So,
and what does that mean? Sorry,
AIP.
RA.
So RA is rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about the acronym. And then AIP is autoimmune protocol.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which again, you're eliminating a whole bunch of stuff, but when people get better, it's telling you that actually the immune system is improving. Something you were eating is causing a response. And classic intermittent fasting is really interesting, because when people fast, their gut issues feel a lot better. Well, that's interesting. Something that you're eating is not right.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, it would be so easy for one of my family members has really bad rheumatoid arthritis, and all he really eats is meat and veg, but unfortunately drinks fizzy drink with his his drink of choice, like the alcohol.
And a lot of alcohol.
Yeah. But just in terms of diet, apart from the drinking, like wouldn't have to change that much. And
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the AIP, what we don't know and what this PhD student is looking at in some shape or form in her PhDs is you've got all these food groups that you eliminate with AIP, but it might be that not all of them for everyone need to be eliminated. So which are the more aggravating ones? And we don't know. I would imagine things like grains, alcohol,
do you think
maybe dairy might be some of the sort of worst culprits. But for some people, eggs might be no problem. For other people, they might be a problem. And I think for a lot of people, if you eat one thing and the gut gets aggravated and you keep aggravating it, when you start eating other things, the gut is aggravated anyway. So you think you're aggravated when you eat nuts, but actually it's not the nuts, it's the grains. So it's a tricky business.
What are your thoughts around alcohol? I know there's a lot of sugar-free options and low carb, but is it the alcohol itself that is still, not good for us?
Yeah. So I think on the one hand it is sugar. On the other hand, it is absolutely alcohol. Alcohol is a toxin.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was listening to the radio yesterday on my run, and they were talking about the fact that alcohol intake in youth is actually decreasing.
Yes, we've heard that.
Yeah, and alcohol-free beverages or low-alcohol beverages are the next sort of growing.
It's so
commodity.
great.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And is it coming from people just looking after themselves a little bit more and all that?
Do you know, I think these young people are coming through and wanting to be entrepreneurs a lot younger. And it's the same with Tim and his space, like with the goal setting and things. I think there was this era where there was kids coming through really unmotivated, but it's like these ones that went through COVID at such a crazy time and like their high school experience. It's like they have this determination to get out there and they're not drinking and they're goal setting and they're driven and they want to work for themselves and
Oh no, sorry. I was just going to say the thing about alcohol that's really interesting is that again, I'm in two camps here. In the one camp, I say it is not an essential nutrient; it's a toxin. Like end of story. It's toxic for your body in any intake. Do I drink alcohol? Yes. Do I sometimes drink more than I need? Yes. It's also a social lubricant, and it can help with social situations and being involved in the community in the way that you might want to be involved in the community, and it can be useful, but at the end of the day, it is a toxin. So it's finding a solution that works for you. Some people who abstain, brilliant. Other people might go, I'll have 5 alcohol-free days, and I'm only going to drink on the weekend, and I'm going to limit it to this and that, and that's absolutely cool. I think it'd be great if the whole world said alcohol is absolutely banned, and if that happened, there would be some other thing that came along to take its place.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You can get cannabis drinks now.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Cannabis
It's got
drinks.
terpenes and stuff, eh?
Yeah. And there's actually a few sugar-free options as well.
Wow.
Yeah. They stock them at that. Our friend's got the Cannabis Museum in Auckland. It's such a cool space. It's in this beautiful old church. Right. It's amazing. But he's got some of those at his place.
Yeah, I forgot their name. I make them know they're good guys. But what I was going to say as well, with this younger generation, how they are doing it quite different to the older generation. They're also waking up and changing much earlier. Like as we were younger, we didn't get taught any mindset tools because we didn't really need to. How you said, you just played outside and didn't really think about your food and to think about exercise. It used to be natural to us to do that because that's what our parents done. But now that we're growing up, that space is kind of going, all these foods are coming out. And I feel like that's why it's important for the youth to learn these tools because they need to know it from a younger age. Because if they stay like that, that's why the suicide rate's so high.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And I think, we come from a society of old that was very disciplined.
Mm.
And, you know, you talk to all kind of, you know, my oldie friends, and they can all talk about what their grandparents used to eat, and they all had a system of, you know, on Monday night we had fish, and on Tuesday night we had chicken, whatever.
Yeah.
And your parents would do the shopping. And nowadays you go to the supermarket and you know, mum goes, Johnny, what would you like to eat tonight?
Yeah.
And Johnny's not going to go,
That's what I say to him in the mornings. I'm like, don't ask what they're having for breakfast, what they want. I'm like, just start making the eggs.
Yeah, so not that that I should be commenting on parenting, particularly not having kids, but I was a kid myself, and all my friends have got kids, and I just see things.
No, it is a real thing. It is.
Yeah.
They shouldn't really be given the option. They're not cooking, you know, so.
Yeah, and I think just the whole way society has changed towards treating kids as grown-ups.
Being soft.
Yeah.
And being soft.
Yeah.
And I think while you can be a good parent and be friends with your kids growing up, I'm not sure that it's in their best interest. You've got to be a disciplined parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard balance.
Yeah.
It is, but I'm pretty strict when it comes to that stuff. Like, he'll often, like, get the kids a treat, and I'm just like, there's just not one, like, second of a thought in my brain that I'd get them a treat while I'm out, you know? Like, I'm just like, I'm in control, you know? I might not be able to control myself sometimes, but I'm like, I've got these little humans I can control, you know?
Yeah.
And throw a bit of exhaustion or fatigue in there.
Yeah, totally.
It's an easy thing to
I mean,
do.
there's definitely times we do easy dinners when, you know, I've got 3 little kids. I can't get it right every time. But it's when I'm not in that, you know, overstimulated headspace, I'm making those right decisions, or even taking time to meal prep and things like that, so that when I am exhausted, I've actually made my own chicken nuggets that are in the freezer. You know, I can grab those out and heat them up within 20 minutes for an easy meal if I like.
Or you could swing past the supermarket and get a hot roast chicken and some coleslaw.
Yeah, totally.
And you'll have seed oils in there, which are not ideal, but actually it's way better than getting a takeaway.
2-minute noodles or
2-minute
something.
Noodles
Yeah.
or something like that. So there's nothing wrong with good quality sausages in the oven.
Yeah.
With some coleslaw.
So what's your main clientele that you work with for? Like, how do people even get in contact or think they need your help?
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess I'm fairly well known in the low carb space because of our What the Fat books, which were published about 10 years ago.
Wow.
But actually, so I'm in a lucky position because I just do a little bit of consulting. And when people come to me, they know what I do mostly, so I don't have to kind of try and kind of convince them.
Yeah.
I do see...
That's the worst part.
Yeah, I know. I think...
It's like, do you want it or do they want it? Like
exactly. So I think in primary care, like in your GP clinic, that's hard.
Yes.
So I'm lucky I've got a paying client and they know what I do. And look, don't get me wrong, I don't default everyone to low carb by any stretch, but I'm all about whole food and metabolic health and lifestyle. But I think it's interesting, if you'd asked me 10 years ago who my clientele was, it was kind of younger people. Now as I get a bit older, I've got I've got sort of middle-aged women and menopause and people wanting to pave the way for their future in the healthiest possible way. So some people that are well and want to do that, and then other people that might have pre-diabetes or diabetes. And then I still have, the odd, young child or adolescent or elderly or sports person as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So you went into a private boys' school, didn't you, to help?
Yeah.
Was it not Dioa?
Dilworth.
Yeah. That's right. So did you work with the school as an entire, or did you work with their athletics?
So that was a really interesting story, and actually some of the most satisfying work that I've ever done. And it was as a result of the general manager who was at the rural campus, which I don't think exists anymore. and he used to work at AUT
Right.
in our gym, and then he moved to Dilworth, and then we published the What the Fat book, and the chef was like, oh, this is nonsense kind of thing, and then followed it and lost like 15 kilos, and then we decided he wanted to have a meeting, and because all the boys were kind of putting on weight, and what we did, we worked first at the rural campus, and we changed the menu and got the chef to cook foods that were still, lots of protein, lots of calories, but whole food. And the boys just they lost body fat, and they did so well, and they were cooking their own food. There was a lot of autonomy there. And then what we did was we implemented it in the high school in Auckland. And what was interesting about that scenario is that firstly we analysed the menu, and we changed the menu and took out 40 teaspoons of sugar from the menu.
Wow.
Whoa.
Took out. So
Like
it was
per day?
Yeah, per day.
Wow.
An enormous amount of sugar in there. Yeah, it's like desserts with canned peaches and creamed rice and
Yeah.
bread and juice and more bread and more juice. And, it just adds up. But the good thing was that we worked with the teachers. We had some interaction with the parents, and we had interaction on the ground with the kids and changed the menu. So it was an all school approach, and there was a lot of support there. We did really well, and actually it was quite funny because that was one of the times that I got a complaint from
Oh, wow, really?
from a dietitian colleague of mine who wrote to the Dietitians Board and also wrote to the Ministry of Education saying that we are applying these low carb diets to our
putting
kids,
kids on diets.
putting kids on diets,
Yeah.
and actually it wasn't even low carb, but it was just a whole lot lower than
Yeah.
it was actually just bringing it in.
It's
in
crazy
line.
people have the time
Yeah,
to do that.
Yeah, I know. But that's what I was saying earlier. The dietitian police. It's like
Yeah.
if something's slightly out of kilter, I'm going to complain about it. I'm
Yeah.
going to write in and complain about it.
Doing my research before this podcast and just looking at a few other dietitians just in the content creation space, I just couldn't believe some of the way they're stuck in whatever they've been told.
Yeah, and I think it is. You're right. It is being stuck.
Recommending ramen at home, the packet noodles, and adding all this stuff into it, and I'm just like, for someone that's not even in the health space, can no one look at that and think it's common sense that that's not good for you? Putting on ground up plastic in a herb packet onto your whatever those noodles are,
I guess there are different levels of wanting to control, and different levels of beliefs of what you think is healthy and not healthy. And I think, I don't want to. I don't want to bag the dietitians. I want to help the dietitians, and sometimes that is, that's helpful and it works and I get somewhere, and other times I'm just like.
I wonder what would happen if you started your own little school
Dietetic
to help
school.
them. Yeah, to help all these people, because a lot of people are doing it to help people, just like doctors and stuff like that. They're studying because they want to actually help people, and they end up getting into a space where they have to chuck medicine or prescriptions at everything, not knowing that they're doing anything bad.
Yeah, and
Majority of them will be the same. They're just following the book.
Yep, and that's exactly what we're doing with our diabetes project. We're trying to get primary care on board to basically manage pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes using a three-pronged approach. 1, whole food carbohydrate reduction. 2, the health coach approach, integrating behavior change, which can be done by the doctor, the health coach, the dietitian, the pharmacist, the diabetes nurse, whatever. And the third thing is integrating culturally appropriate community initiatives. And honestly, not changing much about how they, their 15-minute consults and all that. We're not changing the full system, but it's just the underlying philosophy, and it's an uphill battle. Uphill battle.
I did hear you talk about perhaps adding health coaches to the GPs and things like that. They're under so much pressure with these 15-minute, sometimes 7-minute appointments.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
But then being able to go, I think you'd benefit from talking to a health coach, which we have here available.
Yep.
With, food and things.
Yep, and health coaches are being integrated quite nicely. Health coaches and HIPs, which are the health improvement practitioners,
Amazing.
are being incorporated into primary care, which is great. Of course, if you look at the detail, the health coaches and health coaches, it's like anything. So there are some good institutions that train well and train, looking at nutrition across the board rather than giving a very narrow-minded
That's how I found
approach.
with my study. It was like very, you learned about everything and there was no one opinion saying this is the way,
Yeah, that's great. As long as the physiology is there and it's free from kind of biased big food, big pharma kind of influence.
Totally, yeah.
But I definitely think, the health system is on the brink of collapse, really. And primary care, what we're trying to do with our project is try and change things up so that the waiting rooms will be empty long term. So pre-diabetes you can reverse. Type 2 diabetes you can reverse. You can prevent pre-diabetes going to type 2 diabetes. And with those conditions you get all sorts of other comorbidities and chronic diseases. So if we can actually make a dent and reverse, insulin resistance and reverse some of these things, then, we're trying to help prevent collapse of the system long term. But to try and convince clinics of that at the moment, they just go, I'm too busy, which you can understand.
That Bobby Kennedy Jr.,
Yeah.
he seems to be making, some like huge changes in America. And I know America dictates the world, basically, especially with health. Do you think that's going to make some kind of impact eventually all the way down here?
Look, I really hope so. Like, whether you like Trump or not, a lot of people that I'm affiliated with in the States were going, vote Trump to get RFK.
Yeah.
And while you can pick RFK, you can nitpick and talk about the bad things that he might have done. The reality is he's the only one that's looking at prevention. Is the only one that's looking at calling out all these
Big
conflicts of
pharma
interest. And he's looking into the whole COVID, the whole kind of Pfizer pharmaceutical story. And he's got people that are influencing him that I know are that I know really well, that are in the world of lifestyle medicine and prevention and whole food carbohydrate reduction. So look, we can only hope, and I think, again, if they actually get any traction with that, hopefully that will filter down to other countries. So it's going to be really interesting.
I've never seen such big changes so soon, even pre-Trump being into office. Some of those changes coming through, even just the conversation.
The conversation.
Acknowledging that's what's happening and how conflicted it is.
And even now the recent announcement that they're going to withdraw from the World Health Organization.
I know.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It is really interesting to see.
I just can't believe we're living in this time. It's so exciting for me.
I know, it is quite
because it is how I got started. Yeah, that's what this.
Yeah.
The guy that had the Monsanto and FDA, his pharmaceutical company was Pfizer. So that's like, this just gets me so buzzing. I'm like, wow, these conversations I just never thought I would see on such a level,
I mean, I'm certainly not a conspiracy theorist at all, but when you start looking at the evidence that has been stifled, that's now coming to light, you kind of have to go, oh my God, how much more is there that's been hidden?
It's the same with your diet, how you got on the start of it. Like, as soon as you see evidence, you're like, okay, like,
exactly.
Now I can't unsee this. And then you start seeing more and more evidence. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was such a good conversation.
Great.
I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. My
Where can
brain's
people
exploding.
find you or find your work?
So I'm not that active on social media. In fact, I'm not very active at the moment. I just need to
It's
ramp
good.
that up a little bit. I've got a Facebook page, Caryn Zinn, dietitian, and a website.
People are vicious on there anyway.
Yeah.
So
I don't have an Instagram page. My dog does and follows various cool people, but I don't. And from an academic perspective, honestly, if you just sounds arrogant, but if you just Google me, you'll find what you need to know. And if
I
you
love
want to get
that.
in contact,
Yeah.
my website, which is just carynzinn.com, under the contact page, people are easily accessible nowadays. So
Right.
if anyone wants to connect for any reason, go for it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I put your name into AI. Sorry, I put your name into AI, and it came up. It was like boom, just had everything about you. I was like,
Oh, did it? Oh
yeah.
my goodness, Big Brother.
I put you
Big
into
Brother
chat.
AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just typed your name in once, and it came up with like every single thing. I was like, holy shit.
Wow, okay, oh gosh.
Yeah, so people, if you guys want to do that, no.
I'm not going to do that in case I find something that I'm
If you guys
not
want to know
happy with.
every single thing about her, no.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks
I
so
know.
much.
Cool. Thank you for
Karen.
coming on.
Thanks
Oh,
for
you're
watching,
welcome.
guys.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for tapping in.
Yay, that was so cool.